They called themselves the Veil Corps, apex hunters of the known galaxy. Not soldiers. Not conquerors. Hunters. Where others waged war, the Veil Corps curated hunts. Entire civilizations were reduced to arenas, their people scattered like animals across continents, all for the thrill of pursuit. For sport. For proof of dominance. And in all their long, blood-soaked history, they had never lost. Earth was supposed to be easy. Primitive world, Commander Rethka stated as he stood before the vast observation glass of his command vessel. Below him, the blue planet turned slowly, peaceful and unaware. Clouds drifted across oceans. City lights glittered faintly on the night side. Fragile. Technological level, insignificant. Defensive capabilities, minimal. Indigenous species, highly diverse, but undisciplined. A low clicking sound, Veil Corps amusement, echoed across the bridge. Perfect, Rethka finished. The fleet descended without warning. There were no negotiations. No signals. No demands. Only fire. Orbital strikes lit the sky like artificial suns. Major cities vanished in moments, reduced to molten ruin before alarms could even finish sounding. Satellites were wiped from orbit. Communication networks collapsed in seconds. Humanity never had time to understand what was happening. They only had time to run. Panic spread faster than the destruction. Governments issued desperate orders that no longer reached their people. Military forces mobilized, only to be erased by weapons they couldn't even track. Jets fell from the sky. Tanks became glowing wreckage. And everywhere, people fled. Into forests. Into mountains. Into the ruins of their own cities. Anywhere they thought they could hide. From orbit, Rethka watched it all unfold with clinical detachment. Population dispersal within expected parameters, an officer reported. Survivors are fragmenting into isolated clusters. Good, Rethka replied. Fear improves the hunt. Across the galaxy, the broadcast began. This was tradition. No ceremony. Countless alien civilizations tuned in, their screens lighting up with the live feed of Earth. Some watched in awe, others in quiet horror. A few, ancient and wise, turned their displays off entirely. They had seen this before. They knew how it ended. Elite Veil Corps hunters deployed to the surface. Each one was a master of pursuit, genetically enhanced, centuries of experience etched into instinct. Their armor shimmered with adaptive cloaking, bending light and blending seamlessly into any environment. Their weapons could track heat signatures, heartbeats, even the faint electrical signals of a nervous system. No prey had ever escaped them. Hunter Vrax landed first. His boots sank slightly into damp soil as the forest swallowed him whole. Towering trees stretched endlessly upward, their branches choking out most of the sunlight. The air was thick, heavy, strange. He activated his scanner. Multiple life signs, small animals, distant human signatures, scattered and disorganized. Surface conditions nominal, Vrax reported calmly. Prey is disoriented. No structured resistance detected. High above, Rethka nodded. Proceed. More hunters descended, spreading across continents. Deserts. Urban ruins. Frozen tundras. And deep forests like this one. Hunter Kelther moved silently through the undergrowth beside Vrax. His movements were precise, calculated, every step placed to avoid noise, every motion efficient. Primitive species, Kelther muttered. They rely on instinct. Panic. They scatter like animals. Then we hunt them like animals, Vrax replied. They advanced deeper into the forest. And that's when things began to feel wrong. Kelther paused. Do you detect that? Vrax stopped, scanning again. No threats. No anomalies. Kelther tilted his head slightly. There are no birds. Vrax listened. No chirping. No insects buzzing. No rustling of small creatures. Nothing. The forest was silent. Completely silent. Environmental shift due to orbital strikes, Vrax said after a moment. Insignificant. Kelther didn't respond immediately. His gaze swept the trees. The shadows. The spaces between. Perhaps, he said finally. They continued forward. But now each step felt heavier. Each shadow seemed deeper. High above, Rethka observed the live feeds, his confidence unshaken. Everything was proceeding as expected. Survivors scattered. Hunters advancing. The opening phase of the hunt was always the same. But then, a flicker. One of the hunter feeds glitched for a fraction of a second. Rethka narrowed his eyes. Report. No answer came. Down in the forest, Vrax stopped again. His grip tightened slightly on his weapon. Kelther, he said quietly. Do you hear that? Kelther froze. First, nothing. Crunch. A single footstep. Behind them. Both hunters spun instantly, weapons raised, scanning the darkness between the trees. Nothing. No heat. No movement. No life signs. Only the empty forest. Kelther's voice dropped to a whisper. There is nothing there. Vrax didn't lower his weapon. Because he had heard it. Clearly. Footstep. Heavy. Deliberate. Not an animal. Something else. The forest fell silent again. Even the air felt still. Crunch. Closer this time. Right behind them. And when they turned again, there was still nothing there. But for the first time in their long history, the Veil Corps hunters hesitated. Because something had just stepped into the hunt. And it wasn't running. The forest did not breathe. It waited. Vrax kept his weapon raised, its targeting system sweeping through the trees in rapid pulses. Infrared. Motion tracking. Neural mapping. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yet he had heard it. Close. Footstep. Kelther adjusted his stance, turning slowly in a full circle. His cloaking field shimmered faintly as it adapted to the shifting light. There is no life form behind us, he said, though his voice had lost its earlier certainty. Vrax didn't answer, because the silence felt wrong. Not empty. Occupied. Run a deep scan, Vrax ordered. Kelther complied instantly, switching to a more invasive sweep, one capable of detecting even microscopic disturbances in the environment. The result flashed across his visor. No target found. Kelther hesitated. That is not possible. High above, Commander Rethka leaned forward. Status update, he demanded. The channel remained open. But neither hunter responded. Hunter Vrax. Hunter Kelther. Report. Static. Back in the forest, Vrax took a slow step forward. Then another. Each movement deliberate. Controlled. Maintain formation, he said quietly. Kelther moved to flank position, their spacing precise, covering blind angles, overlapping fields of fire. They had hunted apex predators across dying worlds. They had faced creatures that could tear armored vehicles apart with raw strength. They had never been unsettled. Until now. Crunch. The sound came again. Behind them. Closer. Heavier. Both hunters spun instantly, firing in unison. Energy bolts tore through the trees, vaporizing bark and splintering trunks. The forest exploded with light. Then fell silent again. No scream. No movement. No body. Nothing. Kelther's breathing became audible through the comms. We hit nothing. Vrax didn't lower his weapon. Impossible. Agreed. The word hung in the air. Uncomfortable. Above them, Rethka's irritation turned to something sharper. Deploy auxiliary drones, he ordered. Full spectrum analysis of the region. From orbit, sleek black drones detached from the hull and streaked toward the forest below. Within seconds, they entered the canopy, their sensors flooding the area with data. On the command deck, the feed stabilized. Multiple angles. Multiple scans. Every inch of terrain mapped in real time. Rethka watched closely. There, one of his officers said, pointing. A faint disturbance. Behind the hunters. Enhance, Rethka commanded. The image sharpened. Shadows. Nothing. The disturbance vanished. Where did it go? The officer asked. No one answered. Down below, Vrax felt it again. That sensation. That pressure. Like ice. Watching him. Keller, he said slowly, fall back 2 steps. Kelther obeyed. The moment he moved, crunch, the sound came from where he had just been standing. Both hunters froze. Kelthur's voice dropped to a whisper. It followed my position. Vrax's grip tightened. Something is tracking us. No, Kelthur replied. The pause. It is mirroring us. The realization settled like a weight. Another step. Closer. Not random. Not wandering. Precise. Deliberate. As if something unseen was walking just behind them, matching their movements, learning them. Break pattern, Vrax ordered suddenly. He lunged forward, then pivoted sharply to the side, weapon sweeping behind him. Nothing. But the sound came again. Crunch. Right where he had been. Kelthur's composure finally cracked. This is not prey. No, Vrax said. It is not. Above them, the drone feeds began to flicker. One by one. Rethka's eyes narrowed. Stabilize the signal. We're trying. The feed cut. Then another. And another. Until only one remained. A single drone. Hovering behind the hunters. Its camera fixed on them. And just beyond them, something shifted. A shape. Almost visible. Then gone. The final drone feed distorted. Static crawling across the screen. And through the distortion, a sound. Not from the forest. From the drone itself. A whisper. So, close. Run. Rethka froze. That is not Veil Core, one of the officers said quietly. No, Rethka replied. It is not. On the surface, Vrax heard it too. Through his comms. Through the air. Run. He turned slowly. For the first time. Not as a hunter. But as something else. Something uncertain. Something being watched. Keller, he said. But Kelthur didn't answer. Vrax turned. His partner was gone. No sound. No trace. No signal. Just gone. The forest stood still around him. Silent. Endless. And then, crunch, footstep. Right behind him. Closer than ever. And this time, he did not turn immediately. Because something deep inside him, something ancient, buried beneath instinct and training, finally understood. The hunt had changed. And he was no longer the one in control. Hunter Vrax did not turn. Every instinct screamed at him to spin, to fire, to kill whatever stood behind him. But something deeper, older than training, older than instinct, told him not to. The forest had gone completely still. Not silent. Still, like it was holding its breath. Another step. Crunch. Closer. Measured. Unhurried. Vrax tightened his grip on his weapon. Identify yourself, he said, voice steady, force steady. No response. His scanner flickered again. Blank. Nothing behind him. And yet, he could feel it. A presence. Close enough to touch. Show yourself, Vrax growled. The footsteps stopped. Silence flooded back in. Heavy. Oppressive. A voice. Not through his comms. Not through his translator. Right behind him. Turn around. Vrax spun. His weapon fired instantly, pure reflex. Blinding energy tore through the space behind him, shredding bark, vaporizing leaves. But there was nothing there. No body. No heat signature. No movement. Only trees. And silence. Vrax's breathing became sharp. Controlled. But faster now. This is Hunter Vrax, he transmitted. Unidentified entity present. Non-detectable by all known scanning methods. Possible. The channel cut. Not disrupted. Not jammed. Removed. Above, Commander Rethka watched the last remaining feeds flicker violently. Restore the signal, he snapped. We can't, an officer replied. It's not interference, it's selective loss. Selective. Yes. Something is choosing what we can see. Rethka's mandibles tightened. That is not possible. No, the officer whispered. It isn't. On the surface, Vrax moved. Slowly. Carefully. Every step deliberate. Every breath measured. He was no longer hunting. He was surviving. Think, he muttered to himself. Analyze. Adapt. The entity made sound. Footsteps. Pressure. But left no trace. No thermal output. No electromagnetic signature. No neural pattern. It existed, but outside everything he could perceive. Then it is using the environment, Vrax concluded aloud. He raised his weapon and fired, not behind him, but into the trees. Explosions ripped through trunks and branches, sending debris crashing to the ground. For a moment, the forest broke, and in that brief chaos, he saw it. A flicker, a shape between the falling debris. Controlled. Watching him. Eyes. Human eyes. Then it was gone. Vrax froze. Visual confirmation, he whispered. Hostile is... Snap. His leg jerked violently. Something had grabbed him. Invisible. Unseen. But undeniably real. The pressure crushed against his armor, forcing him down to one knee. Vrax roared, firing wildly at the ground, at the air, at nothing. Release me. The force tightened. Stopped. Gone. Just like that. Vrax staggered back, scanning frantically. Nothing. 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 Face me, he shouted into the forest. Fight me. The pause. Movement. Not behind him. In front. A figure stepped into view. Not invisible. Not hidden. A human. Covered in mud. Leaves woven into clothing. Skin broken up with streaks of ash and dirt. Blended into the forest so perfectly. It hurt to look at. The human didn't raise a weapon. Didn't move aggressively. Just stood there. Watching. Vrax aimed instantly. Identify yourself, he demanded. The human tilted their head slightly. Almost curious. You came here to hunt, the human said calmly. Vrax's finger tightened on the trigger. Yes. The human nodded once. Then spoke again. So did we. Vrax fired. The blast hit the spot where the human stood, but they were already gone. Not moved. Gone. As if they had never been there. Vrax's breathing broke. How? Crunch. Behind him. Fin. Closer. Always closer. He spun. Nothing. From every direction. Crunch. That. Crunch. That. Crunch. That. Surrounding him. Closing in. Not one. Many. Above, Rethka stared at the final transmission. The last surviving hunter. Surrounded by nothing. And reacting to everything. What am I looking at? One of the officers whispered. Rethka didn't answer. Because deep down, he already knew. This was no longer a hunt. This was a demonstration. And the Veil Corps were the ones being studied. On the surface, Vrax slowly turned in place. Weapons shaking now. They're not hiding, he whispered. They're everywhere. A voice answered. Not one. Many. Layered. Whispering from the trees. From the ground. From the air itself. You're loud. Vrax's eyes widened. Another voice. Closer. You're predictable. Another. Behind him. You never look up. Vrax tilted his head. To slightly. And saw movement in the branches above. Too late. The feed cut. And for the first time in their history, the Veil Corps had no hunter left alive on the ground. Only the echo of footsteps. Still walking. Still hunting. In the forest below. Silence filled the command deck. Not the calm silence of control, but the suffocating silence of something slipping beyond understanding. Commander Rethka stood motionless, staring at the final frozen frame from Hunter Vrax's feed. A forest. Empty. Still. But he no longer trusted what he saw. Status, he demanded. No one answered immediately. Because there was nothing to report. All surface units, lost. An officer finally said, voice tight. No signals. No biological readings. No debris. No debris. Rethka repeated slowly. Yes, Commander. That was impossible. Even the most efficient predators left something behind. But there was nothing. As if the hunters had never existed. Rethka turned toward the central display. Replay the last visual confirmation. The footage appeared again. Fragmented. Hunter Vrax turning. Firing. Panicking. That moment. The human. Rethka leaned closer. Enhance. The image sharpened. It wasn't just camouflage. It was integration. Mud layered over skin in deliberate patterns. leaves woven into the outline of the body. Shadows used not as cover, but as structure. The human didn't stand in the forest. They were part of it. Pause, Rethka ordered. The frame froze. The human's eyes were visible. Focused. Not afraid. Not desperate. Hunting. Rethka felt something cold settle in his chest. Run environmental analysis, he said. The ship's AI responded instantly. Scanning, complete. Report. Anomaly confirmed, the AI said. Local ecosystem exhibits synchronized behavioral suppression. No wildlife movement detected within a 5-kilometer radius of hunter deployment zones. Explain. Unknown. However, the patterns suggest intentional silencing of environmental noise. Rethka's mind raced. The forest hadn't been empty. It had been controlled. Every sound removed. Every distraction eliminated. So the only thing left to hear were the footsteps. Bring up drone data, Rethka ordered. We recovered one partial feed, an officer said. Corrupted, but there's something. The screen flickered. A wide-angle shot of the forest floor. Still silent. Advance frame by frame, Rethka said. The footage crawled forward. Nothing. Nothing. A flicker. Stop. The image froze. Between two trees. A shape. Barely visible. Enhance. The system struggled, then clarified the image just enough. It wasn't one human. It was three. Perfectly still. Perfectly aligned with the environment. One crouched low, blending into the roots. One pressed against a tree trunk, invisible unless you knew where to look. And one, directly behind the drone. Watching it. Rethka felt his mandibles tighten. They allowed the drone to see them, he said. Yes, Commander, the officer replied. Why? No one answered. Because the implication was clear. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Another fragment of footage loaded. This one worse. A close-range view. A Veil Core hunter, one of the missing, standing still. Frozen. Not moving. Not fighting. Watching something off-screen. Audio, Rethka said. The recording played. Heavy breathing. A whisper. Human. You scan for heat. The pause. You scan for movement. Another pause. But you never learned to see. The hunter turned, and the footage cut. Rethka stepped back. This is not possible, he said again. But now, it sounded weaker. Less certain. The AI spoke again. Commander, new analysis. Report. Human behavior indicates advanced adaptive hunting strategies. Evidence suggests multi-layered coordination, environmental manipulation, and psychological targeting. Rethka's eyes narrowed. Psychological? Yes. How? The AI paused, then answered. Footsteps. Rethka froze. The sound patterns are intentional, the AI continued. Designed to induce awareness of presence without visual confirmation. Fear, Rethka said quietly. Yes, Commander. The realization settled fully now. The footsteps weren't accidental. They were a weapon. A signal. A message. You are not alone. Rethka turned back to the screen. To the forest. To the place where his hunters had vanished. They let them hear it, he whispered. Another officer spoke, hesitant. Commander, there's more. A final recording. Recovered from a damaged ground sensor. Low quality. Barely functional. The image flickered. Darkness. Movement. A human stepping into frame. Not hidden. Not camouflaged. Standing openly now. As if there was no longer any need to hide. The human looked directly into the camera. Into the orbiting ship. And spoke. You came here to hunt. The pause. Now you understand. The feed ended. The command deck remained silent. Rethka stared at the empty screen. For the first time in his existence, he felt it. Not anger. Not frustration. Fear. Because this was no longer a hunt. And humanity had never been prey. The Veil Core fleet did not announce its retreat. There was no command. No formation. No strategy. They simply left. Massive warships that had once descended with absolute confidence now pulled away from Earth in fractured silence. Engines flared. Trajectories broke. Ships drifted apart, abandoning precision for distance. For escape. On the command deck, Commander Rethka did not move. Navigation awaiting confirmation, an officer said quietly. Rethka stared at the planet below. Still turning. Still calm. As if nothing had happened. Assemble retreat vector, he said at last. The words felt foreign. Heavy. Behind him, the crew exchanged uneasy glances. The Veil Corps did not retreat. They did not withdraw. They did not lose. But no one questioned the order. Because they had all seen it. Or worse, they had not seen it. Surface status? Rethka asked. Negative, the officer replied. No active signals. No visible movement. All hunter feeds terminated. Thermal scans? Nothing. Motion detection? Nothing. Life signs? The officer hesitated. Nothing, Commander. Rethka's mandibles tightened. That was the most terrifying answer of all. Because Earth was not dead. It was quiet. The fleet continued to pull away. Distance grew. Orbit widened. Yet the tension did not fade. It followed them, clung to them, like something unseen had boarded their ships. Recover any remaining data, Rethka ordered. We have one final transmission, an officer said. Recovered from a damaged reconnaissance drone. Play it. The screen flickered. A wide-angle view of the forest. The same forest. Still silent. No movement. No life. For several seconds, nothing happened. Crunch. Footstep. Rethka's entire body stiffened. Enhance audio. The sound played again. Crunch. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. The camera shifted slightly, as if reacting. But it showed nothing. Only trees. Only shadows. Then another step. Closer. Crunch. One of the officers whispered, "There's nothing there." Rethka didn't respond. Because he knew better now. The camera turned again. Slowly. Carefully. Nothing. And then, a voice. So, come. Human. We let you leave. The bridge went completely still. No one breathed. No one spoke. The recording continued. But the forest remained empty. Then the voice spoke again. Closer this time. You don't understand yet. The pause. But you will. The screen cut to black. Silence. Rethka stared at the darkness. His mind racing. Failing to process what he had just witnessed. They could have destroyed the fleet, one of the officers said quietly. Rethka nodded slowly. Yes. No hesitation. No doubt. They could have. The realization settled heavily across the room. This wasn't a defense, another voice whispered. Rethka turned slightly. No, he said. It wasn't. It had been something else. A demonstration. A message. Rethka stepped closer to the observation glass. Earth filled his vision once more. Blue. Beautiful. And now, unknowable. Why, he murmured. Why let them leave? Why not finish it? Why not prove absolute dominance? The answer came unbidden. Because this wasn't about victory. It was about control. About choice. About letting the Veil Corps carry something back with them. A warning. Mark this system, Rethka said suddenly. The crew snapped to attention. Commander. Mark it, he repeated. Designation. Rethka hesitated. Just for a moment. Then he spoke. Forbidden. The fleet jumped to faster than light. Earth vanished from view. But the silence followed them. And long after they had crossed into distant space, the Veil Corps hunters, the greatest predators the galaxy had ever known, never hunted again. Because somewhere in the dark between stars, they still heard it. Crunch. Footstep. Right behind them. And no matter how far they ran, there was never anyone there. Only the certainty that something was still watching. Still waiting. And if they ever returned, humanity wouldn't let them leave again. Because humans don't just survive the hunt. We become it.